Hi, we're lounging today.
Yes.
Just chilling.
And you know why we're chilling? Because we've decided that we're just going to do what feels good.
Right. Today's your day to just feel good.
Yeah, just feel good.
How about that?
Yeah. And there's a very specific formula for feeling good.
Yeah. We have rules.
Hard.
There's rules.
This is hard science here, okay, people? This is the formula, okay? In order to feel good, you have to focus on the stuff that feels good and not focus on the stuff that doesn't feel good. Whoa. You know, just blow your freaking mind.
You would think it's... Okay, let's say that again. To feel good.
You focus on the stuff that feels good, meaning thoughts.
And not
on the stuff that doesn't feel good.
Okay,
So,
it seems like that's just too good to be true. I'm going to close some tabs here. Okay.
It seems like it's maybe too simple, right?
Okay,
like,
so
what about all
feel
this
good,
debt that's piling up?
To feel good, we focus on what feels good.
Yeah.
And not what doesn't feel good.
Right.
Okay, so there is an actual science to this. Are you ready for the science?
Tell me.
Okay. Infants, little babies, they only have two responses. Move towards or move away.
Uh-huh.
Right? So things that feel good, they move towards. Things that feel bad, they move away from. So we're instinctively built to move towards things that feel good and move away from things that feel bad. That's how our biology, that's how we're wired. And little kids, if you look at little kids, they'll do the same thing. You put some like nasty smelling asparagus or broccoli thing in front of them, they'll move away from that. And some candy and they'll... Right? So we're wired to move towards things that feel good and away from things that feel bad.
Yeah.
But as we grow, we're socialized.
What the hell happened?
I don't know, our parents. They made us eat our vegetables. Like, this is good for you, even though it doesn't smell good for you. And we're taught to now start going past our natural instinct to move away, to force ourselves to move towards things that don't feel good.
And I think that's because we have this idea that we need to be excellent. Like, we have this idea that it's not about...
Oh, the excellence problem.
Yeah, it's not about just living. It's about exceeding standards and when you're compared with other people, coming out on top. Like,
Always.
I feel like that's where it comes from because the truth is we don't need to eat vegetables every single day, but like there's this fear that if I don't, then I'm not going to be as good as Sally Sue who eats her vegetables every single day because she's going to make something of herself and I'm not, because we think that we need to do things in order to be worthwhile.
But let me tell you, when we were hunter-gatherers, sometimes you'd find some berries, and sometimes you'd find a mango, and sometimes you'd find some vegetables, and you just ate whatever you found. And it's okay.
And it's okay, but people might say, well, we're not hunter-gatherers anymore, and now, like, we're competing for the job. Like, there's limited jobs, and, you know, we need to have 18 degrees in order to get anywhere. And those are all conditions that we impose on ourselves, right?
Because I've been learning and seeing, like, about these, like, superstar kids who, some of them come from nothing, and end up, you know, really, really talented or really, really vibrant. There's this kid, I was watching this YouTube clip for this little kid, like 8 years old, tiny little guy, and him and his dad were in this coding competition. And it was like, these kids, this little guy was from India, and his dad was there, and the guy asked, like he had a chance to meet the CEO of Microsoft, and the little kids, like, they're like, you get to ask him one question. So you know that question that the little kid asked the CEO of Microsoft?
What?
The 8-year-old kid? He said, what does it take to become the CEO of Microsoft? To become the next CEO of Microsoft? What a great question.
What
the
did he
8-year-old,
say?
that was his question.
But what was the answer?
I don't know. They stopped him. That was just for him, I guess. They don't want all of us becoming the CEOs. But the point was that little guy, 8 years old, he believed he had the talent at 10 or 12 to become the CEO of Microsoft because his ideas were big enough for that.
Yeah.
He didn't limit himself. And, okay, we could say, oh yeah, every kid has a fantasy, but I would actually encourage us to think about what were some of our fantasies as kids. Because there's some truth to that. There's a grain, there's a kernel there that there was something that you loved to do when you were a kid that you probably still love to do and you haven't been doing it.
And what happens is that we think that we need to have a specific skill set in order to make money. Like, we might have heard that we couldn't do something because it wouldn't make money. Like, maybe I want to be a performer. Well, you know, unless you're really lucky, you're not going to make it as a performer. So what can you do? Like, what kind of science can you take so that you can actually make a living and I don't have to support you for the rest of my life? Is what my parents were saying to me, right? They never actually said that, but I'm assuming.
But that's
some parents say that,
yeah.
right? Or you need to be the best of the best of the best. And that is, in our culture, that's something that's really prevalent, is that you can do whatever you want, but be the very best at it.
Right.
And when our goal is to be the best at something, it kind of takes away the joy of it, right?
The
because
experience.
then we're thinking, I need to do this in a specific way so that I make this amount of money and so that I can rise to the top. Whereas maybe our spirit is saying, I just want to enjoy the crap out of this. I just want to like love every second of this. And we don't connect that by loving every second of it, we're actually going to become the best of it, right? The best at it. That's the missing link.
You know, so both of my kids take swimming lessons on Monday night. So we go to swimming lessons. And my little one, she's 3, and the older one's 7. The 3-year-old can do things at 3 that the 7-year-old is doing at 7. Okay? So now, is she advanced? Is he behind? I don't know. I've had all kinds of thoughts about that, and I'm trying not to articulate those to my children. Yeah. But what I've had to do is step back from all of that and just let them enjoy the water.
Yeah.
There's this book I was reading called Bringing Up Bébé, which is about raising children in France. And she gives this example of the swim class that she goes to with her 18-month-old. And they're in the water and they're kind of like swimming, or like, you know, her and her baby are there and the instructor's kind of there. And like three classes later, this is still like, he hasn't taught them anything. And she's like, what's happening? Like, you know, this is a swim class. Like, you need to give us like songs or routines or something. And the instructor's like, no. The idea is to get the babies to feel the water and be in the water. And she's like, well, I didn't have to pay for a class to do that. I could have just brought my kid to the pool. And he's like, well, most parents don't, right? So if you're here, if you know you have to be here every week, and you just enjoy the water with your child. And it's a completely different way of thinking about swimming.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, naturally your child will learn about 6 or 7 or 8. They'll figure it out. But when they're 18 months, they can just be in the water and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's about creating attitudes about water rather than training this little body to be an Olympian.
Yeah.
Right?
And I can imagine some parents out there thinking, okay, well, like there's almost a sense of dread and fear. Like if I don't teach my kids to be excellent, and if I don't teach them to be the best of the best, if I don't teach them the skills that they need, how are they going to ever make it in the world? Right?
Right.
But if you think about how many people are out there with, you know, multiple degrees, there's people that have done medical school places and they're, you know, they're very, very well educated and they're not making any money.
Right.
And they're not enjoying their experience.
Or they're making money
and
they're miserable.
Miserable. And how long can that really last, right? So I feel like it's our whole mentality
that's got to
towards
change
life. Like it's huge. It's our whole mentality. It's what we've grown up thinking, that we need to do something to prove ourselves, right? And what if we knew that we were just worthy from the beginning and we didn't have to do anything? And by not doing anything except for focusing on our joy, we can actually give ourselves space to be inspired to get that great idea that does eventually make us millions.
And you know, when I first heard of this concept, I was really skeptical because I thought, okay, if I just do what makes me feel good, I'm basically going to be sitting at home watching TV with a big bowl of ice cream and just like, and that's going to make me feel good. And so one of my teachers, she said, well, if that's what makes you feel good, then you have to do it.
Yeah.
And so I did. It was awful. Like, it was actually great for the first, like, couple hours. I was, like, watching TV in my pajamas, eating my ice cream. And then I got through one thing of Haagen-Dazs, and I went in the freezer, and I got another one, and I was, like, eating. And then about, like, 8 o'clock at night, I was like, yeah, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because that same thing over and over and over and over, whatever it is, even if it's the most fun that you can imagine having, we need variety as humans. It's not. So the next day, my fun was not that. It was actually like just going outside and like meandering around the neighborhood and like window shopping. That was fun.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to break out of the idea that fun is bad for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've been programmed, like when little kids, they go for recess and they're like, yeah, recess! And then they get back in school and they're like, yeah, back to school. So we're teaching children from such a young age that work is hard and fun is only allowed in small doses.
Right?
What's wrong with us?
What's wrong with us?
We need to stop that.
I'll tell you from my experience, the times when I've made the most drastic growth in my life have been the times when I am not putting any pressure on myself. Like when I moved to Vancouver, and I think I mentioned a little bit about this story before, but when I moved to Vancouver, I basically told myself I'm only going to focus on being happy. And through that, I got an internship with like zero effort. Like some lady in Kana was just like, oh, I did my internship here. Let me connect you to this person. And I met with him and he's like, great. And then I started getting paid for it. And it was just like fantastic. I literally didn't do anything except for just show up places that made me feel good.
Right.
And I met all these people.
That's how we met, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, oh, I'm just going to go here because it feels nice. And I put zero pressure on myself. And it's the same, like recently I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a few days off. and I'm just going to sit in my room and like chill and then go out when I feel like it and just do that. And I actually finished something that I had been meaning to do for years. And it just happened because I felt inspired. But we don't give ourselves that luxury because we think it's a luxury, right?
So pressure. You could ask yourself the question, what's the payoff here? By me putting this pressure on myself, what do I think I'm achieving or gaining by this pressure?
Well, busyness. Because we somehow equate busyness with success.
Success! I'm so busy. I have no room in my calendar for you, and that makes me so important.
Yeah.
Like, hello?
No.
That's messed up.
That's so messed up.
Then we're having to take like stress leave from work because we're so stressed.
Yeah. And what are we really getting? A lot of people that are really, really busy are not doing things that are actually bringing them anything that they want.
Right. They just, time is sucked dry by the world.
Yeah.
Ew. So if you want your time to be stopped sucked dry, do you want that? Do you want your time to just be sucked by the world? Doing things that you're not even happy doing?
So, no, I would imagine not. So here's the simple test, right? And you can do this test throughout the day, all day, every day. You think about, let's talk about the row your boat, right?
Yes, okay,
so
let's talk about it.
Row your boat.
Okay, gently
down the stream.
Gently.
So basically, if you think about infants, right, they move towards the things that feel good and away from things that don't. Their life is kind of flowing them. They're not having to do anything except for just be who they are. They don't do anything. And by not doing anything, they're actually following this very nice flow of life, and things are coming to them. And that is the attitude. You're not an infant, but that is actually what can happen to you if you learn to let go.
Right.
Meaning not to put all of your focus on the stuff that's not working and just think about the stuff that makes you happy. And by letting go, you will be floating down the stream. Very gently. And
not
things
up
will
the
flow
stream,
to
not
you.
fighting and swimming up the stream. It's like floating downstream.
And that's where everything good is. Nothing good is going to come to you when you're way up here fighting against the current, right? So this is an Abraham concept, and they talk about upstream thoughts and downstream thoughts. Downstream thoughts are thoughts that make you feel light. Like it can even be something as simple as things are going well for me today. Yeah. I feel really great. Yeah. Life is meant to be easy. This feels good. I feel creative. Like it can just be thoughts like that are taking you downstream. And as soon as you start thinking something about, how am I going to pay off that bill? Right? You can feel that pressure.
The tightness.
Anything that tightens you up is upstream. So if you can simply focus on just moving downstream, that's all you need to do. And it is an art, right? You just keep at it, and you're going to fail, and that's okay. And then you're going to remember downstream thoughts.
Right.
And eventually you're going to get so good at it that the upstream thoughts feel so bad that you're just not even going to go there.
Because life is but a dream. Merrily, merrily. Right? They say, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Not fighting, stress, tension, headache, up this, right? It's like, just relax. It's gonna be, and I know for myself, when I first started thinking about this and when it's revived here with our work together, there's a part of me that feels like, but then I'm going to be irresponsible. Yeah. Right? Because if I just do whatever I want to do, then what if I don't pick up my kid from school on time because I don't feel like picking him up? Right? But even in that example, I'm actually going to feel really, really bad if I'm late picking up my kid from school. Yeah. So it's not a good idea to do even that's going to make me feel bad. So when you think about responsibilities, you're starting to do that in a different way where it's like, I could have enough energy, time, resources to fulfill my, motherly duties, but also to live the life that I was meant to be living. And to role model that for my kids that, what if your mom could also have a happy life and my life wasn't all just about you all the time, right?
And if you really don't feel like picking your kid up from school, you will find that when you're in this space of joy and you're just letting things happen, some other parent will offer to drop your kid off.
Some kid will be like, can Sajad come for a play date? Exactly. That's happened to me, right? It's incredible how it's just it's so hard to explain.
So I think that what we were talking about before is that people are kind of missing the premise, right? So it's great to think positive and good things will happen and blah, 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 whatever the hell that means. But I think that when we think life is meant to be difficult and that we reward struggle with joy, that's the premise that's flawed. So if we can realize that the purpose of life is joy. And if we can convince ourselves that that actually is the purpose,
Mm-hmm.
then this all makes sense. So how do you convince yourself that that is the purpose? Because it's so different from what we've grown up learning.
Well, for me, I just look at creation stories, right? So if you look at some of the traditions, the faith traditions around the world, they talk about the Garden of Eden,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this original place where things were just easy. Like, people weren't doing much. They're just kind of hanging out, like eating mangoes and like talking, right? Just even having sex, doing whatever they wanted until they ate from the tree of good and evil, of right and wrong, of hard work and laziness, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there's this fall, right? It's like as soon as you went into that duality thinking like there's a right way and there's a wrong way, now suddenly we're in this chaotic place. And so for me, it's like, what is going to bring me closer? It's going to sound really hokey, but I'm going to tell you all, just you guys, nobody else. For me, I think, is this bringing me closer to Eden or farther from it? Right? Does it bring me closer to my garden, that paradise feeling? And many of us, like, for me, sometimes going on a tropical holiday recreates the garden. So like when I went to Cuba, it was this like Garden of Eden, right? Everything was provided. It was really beautiful. It was really relaxing. And so, but you don't have to go away for the garden to come, right? It's like, does this feel easy? Does this feel effortless? Or does this feel like hard work and a punishment? Like the fall was the punishment, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's how, for modern people, that's one of the ways of looking at it, is that your life could be a Garden of Eden. It doesn't have to be this punishment and this fall from grace.
Yeah. And in line with that, if we think about, like, just logically speaking, what is the reason that we try so hard to get all this stuff? Like, what do we think it's going to bring us? We think it's going to make us happier, right? So we think, if I have this really nice handbag that costs $3,000, I'm going to be happy.
So happy, because you're going to walk around, people are going to compliment you on it, and
Yeah.
they're going to think you're really successful because you have it.
Exactly. So this thing is going to bring me happiness. And I'm sure that you may have had the experience of buying something that you really wanted, and you're super ecstatic. Like, you're happy for like a week. And then it's just another thing that you have.
And then you're thinking, oh my God, I don't have any room in my closet for one more purse.
Yeah, and
Now
or you're thinking, oh, what about those shoes over there? That might make me happy.
Other car. Like, yeah, I just got a nice car 2 years ago, but it's time for the next thing,
Yes.
right?
And it's a cycle, and it just keeps going and going. And what we don't realize is that since we're after the happiness, what if we decided to just focus on the happiness and just feel happy? And then everything else that we get is like, awesome,
Oh,
cool,
bonus.
that's fun.
You're not waiting for the thing to bring you happiness.
You're just focusing on bringing yourself happiness. And the only way to bring yourself happiness is to think good thoughts. Here we go.
Here we
Positive
go.
thinking again.
Back to it.
But that's what it is. It's not thinking about the stuff that doesn't make you feel good, and simply thinking about the stuff that makes you feel good.
And a really physical example to kind of drive it home is, I was talking about this before our show, is like, if you take a golf club and you repeatedly hit yourself in the foot with it, like every few hours, you're like, boom, 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 and then you told your friend, my foot's really hurting. What's your friend going to say? Friend's going to be like, well, maybe you should stop hitting yourself in the foot with a golf club every 30 minutes. That might change the problem. That might actually give your foot some time to heal and make it get better. And so that's what thoughts are, right? Negative thoughts are like you taking that golf club and hitting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
And you're constantly hitting yourself and then wondering why you're in so much pain. So the first thing to do is stop with negative thoughts. Just allow the negative thoughts to be released. So Abraham talks about, imagine that every time you speak something negative, it's like you're spewing out this red fog, right? And so you're spewing out this red fog, and this red fog is starting to surround you, and it's starting to kind of cloud your vision, and it's starting to, you don't notice certain things because they're hidden by this red fog, and you notice other things really clearly because the red fog highlights them. And the more you speak your negativity, the more the red fog surrounds you. So the first thing to do is stop speaking that to allow the red fog to dissipate a bit. Stop being around other people who are speaking the red fog, because they will just remind you that something's wrong with you. Why aren't you complaining? There's a lot of problems in the world today. Why aren't you thinking about those problems? And why aren't you worrying with the rest of us? So you have to kind of slowly allow it to dissipate. And then you can start seeing clearly. And then you can actually choose what new things you're going to talk about, right?
And the benefit of that is that if you follow, or if you know anything about the law of attraction, basically our thoughts do become things, right? And so when we're thinking things that make us feel bad, we're actually building a wall between us and good stuff. And we're actively drawing bad things to us because we feel bad. So bad things are coming to us. the energy that you put out is what's coming back in physical form. And if you're thinking good thoughts and putting good energy out there, then you're going to be attracting good things, which is the reason why when you're in a good mood, good things seem to happen to you. And when bad things happen to you, when you're in a good mood, they don't affect you as much. Right? So it's you've experienced this multiple times in your life. Being in a good mood and finding that good things are happening. Being in a bad mood, finding that bad things are happening. It's just the way the world works, but we don't pay enough attention to it to make it work for us. And now we're saying, pay attention. Like, just pay attention, because you'll notice it in your life, and you'll so vividly see the benefits of thinking good, positive thoughts. And it's not just like thinking them for the sake of thinking them, but making yourself believe them, right?
And it could be, again, just a small little switch. Instead of, my life is so horrible. Like, I hear people saying that, my life is so horrible. And I say, excuse me, you have a roof over your head. There's people whose lives are really horrible, who don't even have a roof over their head. So let's tone it back a bit and be like, I'm having a really bad day. Or I'm having a really bad week. Or this, this situation with this particular person is really hard on me. Rather than, my life is so horrible. Right? How are we speaking about our experience? And thinking about our experiences too.
Yeah. And when you're focusing on like a bad situation, or we always tend to focus on the thing that feels the biggest to us. And what we maybe might not realize is that by focusing on that thing, we're only making it bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So if you can pick a point in your life that's slightly outside of that thing and focus on that thing that's actually going kind of well, like maybe you really like something that's happening in your life. And if you can focus on that, I promise you, the bad thing is not going to come and eat you up and take you in with it. It's going to actually get smaller and smaller and smaller. We think that we need to claw our way through problems.
Oh my gosh.
And what we don't realize is instead of clawing, we can just focus on the stuff that's going well and leave the problem in the hands of someone else, right? It's not selfish. It's actually self-preserving.
Right. And I think that, we've been fed all these stories about you have to be responsible and you have to be reliable and you have to be kind and and there's all of these pressures, because I think most of us and most of our viewers are pretty nice people, pretty good people. You're trying your best to give back a little bit in the world, live a happy life, kind of, reap the benefits of your hard work. And so it's not like you're sociopaths. And if you are, there's help available. Right? But for the rest of us, it's like, you're not really, if you were happier, that would actually help everybody in your life. Right? Your unhappiness does not serve a person. And you being happy or unhappy is not going to change other people's life journeys, right? So, I could say, oh, how could I be happy? Because, I have family members who are struggling, and, there's poor people, and there's the sex trade. Like, there's 100,000 things that are going on that are really troubling in the world. But my unhappiness is just going to add to that unhappiness of the world. Right? And the world
and your attention to it is actually going to make it bigger.
And right now, in this time in our history, the world needs leaders. The world needs people to stand up and say, you know what, guys, it's going to be okay. This life is actually a celebration, and to remember the gift that this life is, rather than the feeling of it as a burden or a curse. Like, that's what the world needs right now. And not only on a human level, but just for the planet and for just saving all of us and kind of bringing us to that next level. And you can't do it if you're sitting there complaining to your friends or to yourself about how hard everything is.
And it seems like maybe a big responsibility, but what it actually entails for you is just relaxing.
That's it.
Like, it's just taking the pressure off.
We're just asking you to not have a cow man.
So let's think about some practical examples. So how can we take the pressure off of ourselves when, for instance, our children are doing whatever they're doing, like throwing a tantrum? How can I take the pressure off myself when my sister is having a meltdown? How can I take the pressure off myself when I'm not where I want to be in my career? How do we take the pressure off of ourselves?
Focus on something that's working.
And what will that do for us?
So first thing it does is it stops the spewing. It stops the hitting of the golf club on the foot. Right? It's shifting away from what's not working onto something that is working. The other thing it does is I'm a strong believer in helping people to be self-reliant. So if I'm always coming in and saving my kid when they're out of control, or I'm always coming in and being there for my sister when she's having a meltdown, and I'm always the one, and it's like these people never really learn the skills to do that for themselves, right? And this is, again, not from a selfish place, but we each have a very strong, powerful presence that's within us. And if I'm always saving everybody, then they don't get to save themselves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of selfish. That makes me feel needed and important. But this person over here is like floundering, always has to be in a problem for me to feel important.
Yeah.
Right? We call that the knight in shining armor complex, right? Where I have to be the one to come in and save everyone all the time, when maybe it's okay for them to save themselves.
And imagine this scenario, okay? Let's say that your sister's having a meltdown, and you're there and you're comforting her, and you're really getting into it with her, like really like trying to save her from this mess. So that's one approach. You could do that, and maybe you'd help for a little while until the next meltdown, right? Then imagine that. So in that space, you're very giving. You're giving all of yourself. Like you're really emptying your tank out, trying to fill her tank up. You might notice that works for a few minutes. Maybe she'll stop crying, but it doesn't solve the problem. For some reason, you're noticing that this is a pattern. It keeps going and keeps going and keeps going.
Right.
Now imagine that you've taken some time and you've really centered yourself, and you're really thinking about what makes you feel good. And you're experiencing all this joy in your life. And because you're experiencing joy, you're attracting joyful things to you. And then your sister has a meltdown. When you approach her from this new place, you're going to be, instead of climbing into the grave with her, you're actually going to be standing up here, and you're going to be lifting her up with you. So you're going to be asking her different questions like, what makes you feel good? What would you like to happen right now? What can you do that would just light you up from the inside? And with those types of questions, your sister is going to learn how to heal herself, because she's going to come at it from a completely different viewpoint because of you, right? So by raising yourself to that standard, you're actually bringing everyone around you up to that standard eventually. Maybe not right away, but eventually.
And it's not about being cold, right?
No, not at all.
Like we both kind of work from this space, and it's not that we never connect to anybody or we don't have compassion for people. Actually, compassion and connection is the first step, right? To actually connect with the person and actually see what they're talking about, and because you remember what that's like. You remember what it's like to be in pain. You remember what it's like to feel hopeless, and that acknowledgement's important. But you don't stay there. You don't stay there for the entire conversation. You help to shift out of that to hopefulness.
Totally, yeah. And when you're feeling joyful and hopeful, your priorities start to change, right? So instead of doing something because you think that you should, or you're expected to, or you have to for some reason, you do only the things that you really want to do. And that may require saying no to some things. It may require feeling a little bit uncomfortable about it, or changing your approach a little bit. And that's okay, because your priority is going to be shifted. So you won't even really feel it. It'll just be like, oh, I don't want to do this because last time I did it, it didn't make me feel good. I don't want to hang out with these people because last time I hung out with them, we ended up gossiping the whole time, and I felt nauseous. Like I left feeling horrible. Instead, I'm going to go for a walk in nature. I'm going to call my friend Syra, who always makes me feel better. I'm going to do something that makes me feel good. Your priorities have shifted, and your whole life will shift as a result.
And that's not to say either that you're never going to have a bad day.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have...
Right?
In fact, your bad days are probably going to feel even worse because you're so not used to it. It's going to be like you're always up here, and then one day you're kind of down here, and you're like, oh,
Jenna, something's wrong.
And that's okay, because you'll figure it out. Because the reason that we have bad days is so that we can figure out how we want to feel, based on how we don't want to feel. And it's just like, it's a whole new way of looking at life.
So what if you just allowed yourself to feel good? Like today's your day to just feel good.
Just feel good.
For no reason. You don't have to have a good reason.
Man.
Just take the pressure off, feel good, relax a bit, breathe.
Yeah.
Just test it. Test it
out.
24 hours, 48 hours. Just do what makes you feel good.
Yeah, try it.
You might even be sitting there with your bucket of Haagen-Dazs.
And that's okay.
It's okay. If that's what you need.
Let us know how it goes. We're dying to know.
They're like, we're going to get all these very irate emails like, what felt good was punching my mother-in-law in the face. But it won't feel good. It'll actually feel bad. We think if we allow ourselves to just have happiness and freedom that we're going to be out of control. But
or that we're going to turn into like hippies.
Right.
Just Ecuador all day long. Just
right.
But that's not what you want to do.
And that might be who you really are underneath it all. And it might not.
And I'm noticing, like, as we're going through this process of completely revolutionizing everything, I'm noticing that I'm a lot more creative.
Right?
And I'm letting myself be. And it feels so good.
And when the productivity happens, it happens like on a much bigger scale,
Totally,
right?
yeah. When you're working from a place of needing to do something, the result that you get is going to just be mediocre. Like, it's never going to be inspired.
Right.
When you're working from a place of joy, you're not creating that. You're actually like channeling creativity. Like, it's like an inspired work. There's so many things out there that have changed the course of the world. Like freaking Harry Potter, right? He came up to her pretty much fully formed, and she just like wrote the story. She didn't create the story. She just wrote what came to her, you know? And that's where you're going to be creating.
And look at how transformative it's been for so many people. Like, I secretly have a wish that I could go to that school. Are you a Gryffindor or Slytherin?
Everyone's a Gryffindor.
Everyone, I know, right? It's like none of the other ones are really that. Hufflepuff? Who wants to be a Hufflepuff?
Well, I thought so too, but then my niece the other day said Hufflepuffs are generally happy and cheerful and just really having a good time. And I was like,
that's true.
Oh.
And they're not struggling for anything.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I am a Hufflepuff. I'm a Hufflepuff.
Your niece is onto something.
I know. Yeah. So have a good time with it. Just literally enjoy the crap out of your life for the next couple days. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
You can go to talktosyra.com and jennamarcy.com. And please watch the rest of our videos. Subscribe. Look for us on Facebook Live. We're there occasionally. We have lots of like cool products coming out. We have books coming out. So
keep tuned. And if there's particular things you want us to talk about, I know some of our viewers have sent in some requests, so we're building those into our future episodes.
Yeah.
So keep sending us your requests and we'll build them in.
See you next week.
Bye. Today's your day.